Okay, let's unpack this. Today we are strapping in for a really deep dive. We're looking at one of the most demanding training programs out there, the full 12-month ODST Candidate Program.
That's right. And our source, we're pulling directly from excerpts of the ODST field manual itself. This isn't hearsay, it's the actual blueprint.
Exactly. The authoritative guide for creating these, well, incredibly specialized soldiers, the orbital drop shock troopers. Our mission today is to get under the hood, understand not just the sheer physical challenge, but the really precise, calculated standards and the psychological pressure cooker that makes them so effective.
And this is really a behind-the-scenes look for all of you listening, because regular people don't know what it takes to forge these troopers.
Yeah, this is the real deal.
And when you call it an authoritative blueprint, that's precisely the term. It's a training directive. It's written for the instructors, the cadre, the unit commanders, and, importantly, for the candidates themselves.
So everyone's on the same page.
Everyone. It lays out this exhaustive phase-by-phase breakdown of the preparation. But crucially, it also explains the why. Why every single hurdle, every test is there.
And it starts right off the bat with this foundational ethos, doesn't it? It kind of sets the whole tone.
It really does. It says, we are built to go where others stop. The drop is our baptism. The program forges the will. Powerful stuff.
Wow. Yeah, that definitely sets the bar incredibly high. But the thing that really shapes this whole conversation and the training itself is what the manual calls the key principle. It's this, well, it seems like a contradiction almost, this dual requirement.
That's the absolute core tension of being an ODST. You've nailed it. The final product, the graduate, has to function flawlessly in two modes, simultaneously almost.
Okay, what are those?
First, as a cohesive fire team. Absolute synchronization, unbreakable trust, almost predictive action with your squad mates. You live and die by the team.
Right, standard special operations thinking there. But the other side...
And they must be instantly ready to switch, to become a lone operator. Totally self-reliant, autonomous, making critical decisions alone, potentially completely cut off from any support.
So the training can't just focus on teamwork. It has to build this lone wolf capability too.
Exactly. It can't prioritize. The manual explicitly states the program must enforce both unbreakable team habits and self-reliant decision-making under lethal stress. That's the tightrope they walk.
So if your team goes down, the mission doesn't end.
The mission becomes you. You adapt, you continue, alone if necessary. And we're going to see how this whole 12-month program is designed to test and build that exact dichotomy right from the very beginning, starting with who even gets a shot.
Okay, so before anyone even dreams of getting near a drop pod, they face this massive filtering process. It starts with just the paperwork, the administrative side. It's not like anyone in uniform can just sign up, is it?
No, not at all. Far from it. This initial phase is all about filtering for proven discipline first. The main source, the primary pool, it's very specific.
Who is it?
Enlisted Marines. And not just any Marines. They need a minimum of 18 months active service already under their belt and a clean record. Good conduct is essential.
So they want people who already know the ropes, basically.
Yeah.
Who have that baseline operational familiarity.
Precisely. Discipline is the foundation they build on.
What about people from other branches? Can they get in?
There is a secondary pool, yes.
So.
Select Army or Naval Security Forces candidates can apply, but there's a huge catch, a non-negotiable condition.
Which of?
They absolutely must complete Marine basic training first, regardless of their prior service or specialization.
Wow. So that Marine boot camp experience, that specific indoctrination, is mandatory for everyone.
It is. The manual hammers this point home. That core foundation is essential for the tactical doctrine and discipline they need before they even start ODST training.
So it's about a proven track record, not just raw talent. And this administrative screening, it's more than just checking service records, right?
Oh yeah, much deeper. They're digging into detailed marksmanship scores, your entire physical fitness history over time, and then there's specific O&I vetting and clearance involved.
O&I, Office of Naval Intelligence. For listeners who might not be deep in the lore, what does needing O&I clearance tell us about the kinds of missions ODSTs are expected to handle?
It tells you volumes. It signals that ODSTs are trusted with highly sensitive information, access, and operational protocols. They're often the tip of the spear for deep infiltration, intelligence gathering, sometimes even sabotage or asset recovery missions where secrecy is paramount.
So they're not just shock troops, they're potential intelligence assets themselves.
Absolutely. The clearance level suggests they handle intel critical to, well, galactic security. It's a significant step up from a standard infantry role.
Okay, administrative hurdles cleared. Then comes a medical baseline. And you said this goes way beyond a standard checkup. It sounds like they're looking for, like, superhuman durability.
It's incredibly thorough. You have the standard Class 1 deployable fitness requirements, sure, vision, hearing, basic heart and lung checks. But then they layer on this really in-depth panel.
Like what?
Comprehensive dental clearance, you can't have a tooth abscess sideline you mid-drop. Pulmonary function tests, extensive blood work.
Yeah.
But the real focus, the thing that's unique here, is screening for tolerance to the specific trauma of their job.
Which is?
Repeated high-impact deceleration, getting slammed into the ground, basically, from orbit.
Right. Dropping from orbit, sometimes ballistically, that's where the really crucial specific tests come in, isn't it?
Exactly. You see specialized musculoskeletal exams. These aren't just checking for old injuries. They include an orthopedic stress test.
What does that involve? Sounds painful.
It assesses joint stability, ligament integrity, and critically spine loading tolerance. They are literally measuring how much impact force, how much G-load your spinal column can withstand repeatedly without, failing.
Spine loading tolerance.
Wow.
That sounds like they're pushing right up to the edge of injury just in the screening. Why focus so intensely, almost aggressively, on the spine?
Because the G-forces during atmospheric entry and the final impact are immense. We're talking potentially crushing forces. Any pre-existing weakness, even a slight structural anomaly or genetic tendency towards fragility in the spine, could lead to catastrophic failure mid-mission. A broken back on landing mission over, maybe worse.
Makes sense. And tied to that is the heightened pressure tolerance baseline.
Directly linked. This screens your vestibular function, your balance system, how you handle disorientation. It checks for any history of barotrauma, which is injury caused by pressure changes, think ears and sinuses. And critically, it screens for susceptibility to decompression, illness, DCI, the bends, basically.
Why is DCI such a concern? They're not deep-sea diving.
But they experience rapid, extreme pressure shifts during the drop. And they might operate or train in hyperbaric, low-pressure environments afterwards. If your body, especially your inner ear or sinuses, can't equalize and handle those wild pressure swings, you're a liability. You simply can't function reliably.
So it's not just about being healthy, it's about being built to withstand specific, extreme mechanical stresses. And the mental side is just as rigorous. Sounds like a deep psychological probe.
It is a deep psychometric battery. They're measuring things like your inherent resilience index, your situational judgment under pressure, how you react to unexpected problems. They even assess moral injury tolerance.
Moral injury tolerance, how do you even quantify that?
It's about assessing how candidates might cope with making ethically ambiguous or incredibly difficult choices, often where there's no right answer, only least worst outcomes. Things that might deeply violate personal values but are deemed necessary for the mission. And they test cognitive flexibility, how quickly you can adapt your thinking when the plan completely dissolves.
They need people who don't freeze up when things go sideways.
Precisely. Who can improvise, adapt, overcome, as the old saying goes, but under the most extreme mental pressure imaginable.
Okay, here's where, for me, it gets really interesting. Before they even start the formal training, during the screening, there's something called the stress inoculation baseline test. Tell us about that.
Ah, yes. This is a fascinating and critical piece. It's designed to measure their raw, uncoached coping mechanisms under intense, prolonged stress. It's a monitored 48-hour isolation exercise.
48 hours. Isolated. What do they do to them?
They layer two powerful stressors. First, graded sleep deprivation. They carefully control and reduce sleep over the 48 hours. Second, simulated information loss. They deliberately mess with the data feed.
How so?
They might give conflicting intelligence reports through crackly, intermittent comms, or present a clear objective initially, then suddenly revoke critical supporting data maps, enemy positions, timelines halfway through the exercise.
So induce confusion, exhaustion, and uncertainty, deliberately. What are the instructors looking for during this?
They're watching how the candidate handles the cognitive breakdown, the sheer physical fatigue, and the ambiguity. Does the candidate shut down? Do they fixate on the missing information? Or do they immediately default to problem-solving mode, using only the limited, maybe contradictory information and tools they still possess?
It's a test of resourcefulness under fire, essentially, and leadership.
Critically, yes. They look for leadership emergence under strain. Who takes charge, even if informally? Who maintains composure? who can still make a logical, albeit high-risk decision when completely in the dark and running on fumes. It's a pure test of innate resilience and ingenuity.
Okay, so if a candidate washes out at this stage, what are the absolute deal breakers, the things that send you home immediately?
The manual lists several hard disqualifiers, though it notes the list isn't exhaustive. Any uncontrolled cardiac condition is an immediate no-go. Significant vestibular issues, problems with balance, spatial orientation, recovering from G-forces, that's a non-starter for obvious reasons.
If the drop itself would incapacitate them.
Instantly. And, of course, any existing spinal injuries that haven't been fully mitigated and stabilized. Given the sheer mechanical violence involved in a ballistic drop, your spine has to be structurally sound. Absolutely impeccable, really, to handle that repeated shock.
All right, let's say a candidate somehow manages to clear that incredibly high bar administratively, medically, psychologically. They're not in the clear yet, are they? They immediately face the gate. Week 0, 7 days. Sounds like pure hell.
It's designed to be exactly that, an immediate maximal shock to the system, the ultimate picture cooker, as you said.
What's the core purpose of the gate?
It's all about evaluating their baseline performance under maximal physical load and decision-making pressure right out of the gate, literally. It's short, brutally intense, designed to see if they possess the fundamental grit, the physical capacity, and the mental fortitude to even begin the real 12-month program.
So it's the final entrance exam, written in sweat and pain.
Essentially, yes. Candidates arrive, get issued standard gear, and the evaluations often start immediately, sometimes with little to no sleep beforehand to add to the stress.
Okay, let's get specific. What are the key physical tests they face in these 7 days? What performance metrics are they hitting them with?
The first big physical filter is the PT assault course. Standard obstacle course, but with a significant twist.
A rock.
The ruck. A standardized 25-kilogram ruck, non-negotiable. They have to complete the course, carrying that weight, against a very demanding time standard, usually 9.00 minutes, though it can vary slightly based on the specific course layout.
9 minutes with 25 kilos over obstacles. That's designed to break people.
It immediately weeds out anyone who can't maintain complex motor skills, climbing, crawling, vaulting, balancing, while sustaining a heavy load under extreme cardiovascular stress.
And the endurance run. I heard it's less about individual glory and more about the team.
Very much so. It's an 8-kilometer run, but the key factor is the emphasis on team pacing. Why? Because it includes mandatory buddy carry rotations.
So you physically have to carry your teammates at points.
Exactly. Your squad's time is what matters, not your personal best. You are literally only as fast, only as strong as your weakest member at any given point. Your score depends on motivating, managing, and sometimes physically hauling that teammate.
So they're testing teamwork and leadership even during a simple run.
Yeah.
They don't want lone wolves here.
Not at this stage. They're looking for integrated fire team members who put mission and team success above personal comfort or achievement right from day one.
Okay, then there's the water confidence element, often the big psychological hurdle in selection courses.
It is, and it's designed that way. To induce and test control over panic, they start with a grueling 400-meter swim, fully geared up, which is exhausting in itself.
But the real test comes after.
The real test is the conclusion, a submerged equipment retrieval test. After the exhausting swim, likely disoriented, definitely stressed, they have to dive down, retrieve specific critical gear from the bottom and surface.
What's that testing?
It assesses their ability to stay oriented underwater, manage the inevitable panic response, and perform a relatively fine motor skill task under extreme duress. Can you think clearly and act effectively when you're exhausted, underwater, and maybe slightly hypoxic?
So the physical punishment is intense, but they're already layering on leadership and decision-making tests throughout week 0, even when candidates are shattered.
Constantly. That's where the leadership and decision lanes come in. Small group scenarios, typically fire team size, and command deliberately throws wrenches into the works.
Like what kind of perturbation, as the manual calls it?
Imposed communication loss is a big one. Comms just go dead. Or they inject conflicting information, maybe simulated casualties, unexpected enemy contact, environmental hazards like smoke or sudden darkness. They force the candidates to plan and execute short, sharp missions under constant disruption.
And the test is, can they adapt?
Can they transition? Can they shift from relying on clear verbal orders to using implicit nonverbal cues? Can someone step up and lead effectively when the designated leader is hit or the plan completely falls apart and comms are down? It's about emergent leadership and rapid replanning under fire.
I can only imagine the mental toll. 7 days of that relentless, monitored stress. What's the biggest psychological failure point you see in that kind of test? Is it just the exhaustion?
It's often the combination, the exhaustion coupled with that loss of control. A very common failure mode, especially among smart, capable candidates, is what instructors sometimes call analysis paralysis. Meaning they're used to having good information, structured plans. When the information disappears or becomes contradictory and the plan is clearly irrelevant, they just freeze. They can't process the ambiguity and make any decision. The gate actively filters for those who can bypass that paralysis, improvise rapidly, take decisive action, and assume command if needed, even if they might be wrong initially. Action is preferred over inaction.
Okay, 7 days of hell are over. How do they make the final cut? Who gets to move on to phase 1?
It's not just about who finished fastest or strongest. It's a complex scorecard, heavily weighted towards the psychological and relational aspects. Instructor ratings are obviously key. But the peer rating system is absolutely crucial here.
Peers rate each other during the selection week.
Continuously. The people sweating, bleeding, and failing alongside you are constantly evaluating you. Do they trust you? Would they want you covering their back in a real drop? That peer assessment carries enormous weight.
Wow. Brutal honesty.
It has to be. Then you add the stress response scoring, which comes from objective data telemetry tracking their physiological responses throughout the week. How did their heart rate recover? How did they manage cognitive tasks under peak stress?
And the result?
Brutal efficiency. Only the actual top percentile of candidates who start week 0 actually proceed to phase 1. What about the rest, though? Well, some might get identified for specific short remediation if the cadre see potential, but most are simply and immediately returned to their original units.
So the standard isn't just competence, it's sustained, measurable excellence under extreme continuous pressure.
Exactly. Anything less, and you don't pass the gate.
All right, so the top percentile made it through the gate. Now they face the real deal, the 52-week forge. This is where they actually build the ODST. 6 distinct phases. Let's start at the beginning. Phase 1, foundations, weeks 1 through 8.
Phase 1 is all about laying that absolutely non-negotiable bedrock, hardening the body and drilling the core fundamental skills until they're second nature.
Physically, what does that look like? More PT.
Relentless PT daily grind. This includes structured rec marches, typically 10 to 15 kilometers weekly, building up load and distance, but they're aiming for very specific high standards by the end of these 8 weeks.
Such as?
A 2.4-kilometer run that's about 1.5 miles in 9 minutes 30 seconds or less, a minimum of 8 strict pull-ups, and 100 push-ups completed within 5 minutes. These aren't aspirational goals, they're pass-fail gates to even get into phase 2.
It's interesting, though, that the outline mentions injury prevention being integrated so early. I kind of pictured phase 1 as just pure attrition, seeing who breaks.
That's a common misunderstanding of elite military training. It's not just about breaking people, it's about building resilient machines. They deliberately integrate mobility work, corrective exercises, specific drills for joint stability, think shoulders, hips, knees, precisely because they know the strain is immense.
They're trying to stress them productively, not just destructively.
Exactly. Controlled stress, aimed at building peak, sustainable physical output. Breaking candidates through preventable injury is inefficient. Alongside the physical grind, there's classroom work. Core knowledge dump.
What kind of knowledge?
Things like order of battle, understanding enemy structures and capabilities, basics of TACnet, the tactical network they operate on, and essential communications protocols.
Comms seem critical. What specifics do they drill?
Brevity codes are huge, short, predefined words or phrases that convey complex tactical information instantly under pressure. Reduces radio traffic, increases speed and security. Like, sunshine might mean LZ is clear, while thunder could mean heavy contact expected. They have to be fluent in this compressed language. Learning signals too, visual and audio.
And medical skills. Everyone gets basic medical training.
Mandatory. Every single candidate has to become proficient in the March algorithm. It's the standard for tactical combat casualty care.
Remind us what MARCH stands for.
Massive hemorrhage, stop the bleeding first. Airway, ensure they can breathe. Respiration, support breathing if necessary. Circulation, treat for shock, check pulse. Head injury and hypothermia, assess for TBI, and keep the casualty warm.
So basic life-saving under fire.
Plus practical skills like effective tourniquet use, packing wounds, managing bleeds, and even the basic application of things like biofoam for sealing major trauma quickly. The principle is you can't always wait for the medic. Every trooper needs to be able to stabilize a buddy.
And the practical combat skills start right away, too. Time drills, live fire.
Absolutely. They're doing dry and eventually live fire drills focusing on CQB close quarters battle, timed individual movement techniques like bounding between cover points, precise sequences for breaching doors and clearing rooms, and critically, practicing casualty extraction under simulated fire. How do you safely move a wounded teammate out of the kill zone?
Sounds intense. Demolitions, too.
Basic demolitions and EOD explosive ordnance disposal awareness. They're not becoming expert bomb techs, but they learn how to handle, prep, and safely use basic field charges for things like obstacle removal or breaching. And equally important, recognizing explosive hazards and understanding safe standoff distances. They need that fundamental respect for explosives.
Okay, that's a packed 8 weeks. Then phase 2 kicks in, weeks 9 through 20, the operational core. The complexity really ramps up here, doesn't it?
Oh, significantly. We're moving beyond the basic fire team drills now. They start practicing much more complex maneuvers. Things like sophisticated envelopment tactics in tight urban canyons, or navigating and fighting in subterranean tunnel complexes, places where standard infantry tactics break down.
And they start working with other assets, not just their own squad.
Yes, this is where combined arms coordination becomes central. They're learning how to effectively call in air support, close air support, maybe extraction birds, how to properly mark LZs, landing zones, how to coordinate their movements with naval gunfire support or suppression blocks offshore. They use those brevity codes and TACnet skills constantly now.
So the ODST becomes a node in a much bigger battle plan.
Exactly. They transition from being just a small unit operating tactically to being a key piece integrated into a larger operational or even strategic effort.
And this is where the specific anti-covenant tactics come in.
Yes. The training gets very specific about the known threats. Species-specific procedures. This isn't just reading intelligence reports, it's hands-on tactical adaptation. Understanding the different engagement profiles needed for, say, heavily armored elites versus tackling swarms of grunts or drones. How to adjust fire patterns, weapon selection, movement techniques based on the specific enemy composition they're facing. It's about tailored lethality.
Medically, phase 2 also takes a big leap forward, right?
Yeah.
Beyond just March.
Definitely. The focus shifts from immediate point of injury care to extended care. The assumption is they might have to keep a casualty alive for up to 6 hours before definitive medical evacuation is possible.
6 hours. Wow. What skills does that require?
Skills like managing airways long-term, more advanced hemorrhage control, maybe even very basic expedient field surgical procedures under extreme duress. A key skill introduced here is chest decompression training, learning to use a needle to relieve a tension pneumothorax, a collapsed lung, which is a common battlefield injury.
That sounds like something only a highly trained medic would do.
Normally, yes. But for ODSTs operating deep, potentially cut off, they need that capability within the team. They also train heavily in mass casualty triage management.
So handling multiple casualties at once.
Exactly. How do you prioritize treatment when you have multiple severely injured teammates or civilians in a chaotic situation? Who gets treated first? How do you allocate limited resources? It's brutal, rapid decision-making.
Okay, so they're learning all these complex team skills, combined arms, advanced medicine. How does the training inject that lethal stress piece we talked about? How do they make sure these skills hold up when everything goes wrong?
Through dedicated extreme stress inoculation exercises. These are often multi-day field exercises, deliberately designed to degrade performance.
Oh.
Chronic low sleep operations are standard, maybe only 2 to 4 hours of sleep per 24-hour period for several days straight. Combine that with severely degraded communications jamming, faulty equipment, and maybe contingent supply. The resupply drops are late, incomplete, or contain misleading intel. They're operating under immense cognitive and physical debt.
What are the instructors grading during these exercises?
2 key things primarily. First, decision latency. How long does it take them to make a critical choice under that extreme pressure? Does fatigue slow them down dangerously? Second, command continuity. When a leader is simulated as killed or incapacitated, who steps up? How smooth is that transition? Does the team maintain cohesion and momentum, or does it falter? It's about resilience under maximum system strain.
Okay, phase 3, weeks 21 to 28. This one sounds unique. Vertical and high tolerance. The manual says what's fascinating here is how it systematically attacks the fear of falling.
It really is a phase dedicated to rewiring instinct, overcoming that primal self-preservation urge related to heights and impact, and developing a sort of vestibular resilience, getting used to disorientation and G-forces. It's a very methodical progression.
Where does it start? Not jumping out of orbit on day one, I assume.
No, it starts with introductory tower work, getting comfortable working at moderate heights, rappelling, fast roping. But a significant part of the early phase happens in the water.
Water. Why water before heights?
The water entry confidence sequence. It builds psychological commitment in a relatively safer environment. They progress from doing jumps off a 3-meter platform, eventually moving up to 15-meter platform dives. That's nearly 50 feet.
Fully kitted up.
Often with partial or full kit, yes, into deep water pools. It forces them to control their body in the air, manage the impact, and critically handle the underwater disorientation. This often culminates in another timed submerged gear retrieval or escape drill, simulating bailing out of a sinking piece of equipment after a high fall. Panic equals failure.
Okay, so they're comfortable hitting the water from high up, then the towers get serious.
Then come the high tower drills. We're talking jumps from 30 to 60 meters, that's 100 to 200 feet. But it's not just the jump. They deliberately add distraction.
What kind of distraction?
Loud noises, simulated weapons fire just before the jump, maybe a simulated injury to a teammate they have to account for, blinding lights, smoke, anything to disrupt their focus and force them to execute the jump procedure flawlessly despite chaos. The focus isn't just the jump, it's assessing the situation immediately upon landing, maybe dealing with the casualty, and moving to cover instantly.
Which prepares them for the real thing, or at least the simulator version.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about these pod simulation machines. They sound terrifying.
They are sophisticated and, yes, likely terrifying. They're designed to replicate the absolute worst physical sensations of an orbital drop, especially the failure modes.
Such as?
Extreme G loads, both positive and negative Gs. Sudden, violent lateral shocks, like hitting debris or turbulence. And they simulate repeated descent failure modes, the pod starting to tumble uncontrollably, a delayed parachute or stabilization chute deployment. The works.
So they train for when the drop goes completely wrong.
They have to. Training includes emergency egress procedures, how to get out of a tangled harness in a potentially damaged, maybe inverted pod, and crucially, they drill the post-impact sequence relentlessly. The absolute requirement is a sprint to cover within 20 seconds of the pod hitting the ground, assuming hostile terrain.
20 seconds. From surviving that kind of impact simulation to sprinting for cover, that seems incredibly fast, almost impossible.
It's an exceptionally tight window, but it's doctrine. It's based on the assumption that any drop, especially a ballistic one, will likely alert nearby enemy forces. That 20-second clock represents the estimated time before accurate enemy fire can be brought to bear on the landing site.
So it's survive the impact, overcome the shock and disorientation, unstrap, grab your weapon, get out of the pod, identify cover, and get to it. All in under 20 seconds.
That's the standard. It's a brutal transition from essentially being a trauma patient strapped into a falling object to being a fully functional mobile combatant in the blink of an eye. Survive to kill instantly.
And when they move to real pod training actual drops, it's still highly controlled and monitored.
Extremely. They start with low altitude, inert pod drops just to get the feel, then progress to high altitude, eventually ballistic entries. Every single drop involves full telemetry capture.
What are they measuring?
G-load exposure on the candidate, heart rate spikes and recovery times, impact vectors, physiological responses. That data feeds directly back into their performance assessment and medical monitoring. And the cadre have the absolute authority and responsibility to ground a candidate immediately based on signs of vestibular dysfunction or suspected concussion. The protocols are strict.
Makes sense. They need candidates functional, not broken. All right, phase 4, weeks 29 through 40. This is where it all comes together. Integrated live fire and drops. Sounds like the training wheels are definitely off now.
This is the synthesis phase. The goal is to combine all the skills learned so far, the tactical movement, the medical proficiency, the vertical assault tolerance, the combined arms coordination, and execute them under realistic, high-tempo operational conditions.
So bigger scenarios, more complex missions.
Yes, the scale increases dramatically. We're talking long-range insertions, possibly involving multiple teams coordinating over vast distances, and platoon-scale assaults, often involving staggered drop timings into contested, hot landing zones.
And the complexity isn't just scale, right? They throw in other variables.
Huge variables. They introduce dynamic ROE rules of engagement drills. The rules for when and how they can use lethal force might change mid-mission based on new intelligence or shifting ground situations. They have to deal with complex civilian overlays, non-combatants potentially mixed in with enemy forces, and tasks focused on intelligence preservation.
Meaning grabbing specific data or tech.
Exactly. Objectives might include capturing enemy communication gear intact, securing data caches, or even capturing high-value individuals without harming them, all while under fire.
It requires immense discipline and careful application of force.
What are the key evaluation points for commanders grading these Phase 5 exercises? They're looking at several things. Overall, mission continuity: did the platoon adapt and overcome setbacks? Casualty rates, both friendly and non-combatant, assessing adherence to ROE, and a really crucial element, the efficiency and security of intelligence propagation back to NaviSpec.
NaviSpec, again, Naval Special Warfare Command. Just to reiterate for listeners, why is getting intel back to them so critical for ODSTs?
Because often the ODST mission isn't just about destroying a target, it's about exploitation. They're the eyes and ears deep behind enemy lines. The intelligence they gather, enemy movements, capabilities, plans might be far more valuable than the physical damage they inflict. Getting that data back securely and quickly allows NaviSpec and higher command to make informed decisions for the wider conflict. The job isn't done until the intel is safely uploaded or passed off.
Got it. Okay, Phase V, weeks 41 to 48. Mission systems and solo ops. This brings us right back to that core contradiction we started with, validating the lone operator.
This is where that second pillar, the autonomous capability, is truly forged and tested. The centerpiece of Phase V is the independent objective runs.
What does that involve?
Small teams, often just single operators or maybe two-person buddy teams, are tasked with infiltrating a designated area, performing a specific task: reconnaissance, sabotage, target designation, maybe retrieving a cached item, and then exfiltrating all over an extended period, usually 48 to 72 hours.
And the catch is?
The catch is minimal initial supplies and, critically, no communication allowed with command or support elements during the mission execution phase. They are completely on their own.
Hold on. 72 hours, deep in simulated hostile territory with no comms. That seems counterintuitive after all the emphasis on integration and reporting back to NaviSpec. How do they justify cutting them off like that?
It's the ultimate test of self-reliance, planning, and fieldcraft. The rationale is straightforward. What happens if your comms are destroyed or jammed? Or if maintaining radio silence is paramount to avoid detection, can you still complete the mission?
So it forces total independence.
Total independence. It requires a different skill set than leading a fire team. This is where they drill deeper into tradecraft. Things like basic human intelligence gathering techniques, field observation and reporting skills, secure methods for physically caching supplies or intelligence, and long-term survival skills tailored to potentially hostile or alien ecologies. They have to become ghosts, capable of operating unseen and unsupported.
And the manual mentions this phase includes some incredibly difficult psychological tests involving hard choices.
Yes. This phase is infamous for its decision-forcing scenarios. They deliberately create situations where the candidate, operating alone or in that small team, faces a terrible dilemma. Often, it's a choice between completing the primary mission objective versus diverting to preserve life, maybe a wounded teammate found unexpectedly, or a civilian asset in sudden danger.
And these have real consequences in the scoring.
Absolutely. They are scored based on the choice made, the rationale, and the outcome. It's designed to test their ethical compass under extreme pressure, their ability to weigh mission imperatives against human cost, and to solidify their judgment when faced with impossible decisions. The goal is to develop leaders who understand the weight of command, even when command isn't there to give orders. Prioritizing the mission, yes, but doing so ethically and with sound judgment.
All right, almost there. Phase 6, the final stretch, weeks 49 to 52. Graduation and certification. This is the final exam, right? The capstone.
This is it, the culmination of the entire year. It revolves around the final exercise, known simply as the drop week. It's a continuous 72-hour pass-fail evaluation.
72 hours straight.
Yeah.
What does it involve?
Essentially everything. It's a multi-objective insertion scenario. It will typically involve a realistic drop, followed by complex urban clearing, maybe recovering specific intelligence packages, demonstrating solo operational competence if elements of the team are notionally removed, and finally, coordinating a complex extraction under simulated combat conditions. All phases are tested under fresh cadre eyes, evaluating everything from tactical proficiency to leadership and AAR quality.
Pass-fail. No room for error at the very end.
Very little. The standards for final certification are absolute. You need successful completion of all the preceding phase gates. You can't have failed out earlier. You need current medical and mental fitness certifications proving you're still physically and psychologically capable. And you need the positive recommendation of the training cadre.
What if someone falters during drop week or failed a gate earlier but got recycled?
There's a strict remediation track. If a candidate fails a critical event or phase gate, they might be recycled, held back, and put into a specialized 6 to 12-week program focused specifically on correcting that deficiency. They get another chance.
But only one chance.
Typically, the manual's clear. Repeated, unmitigated failures, especially in critical areas like decision-making or core competencies, result in one outcome: reassignment. You're dropped from the ODST program and returned to your parent unit. You either meet the standard definitively or you don't become an ODST.
The sheer intensity, the physical and mental load of this 12-month program, it's staggering. But what's just as impressive, I think, is the underlying structure, how they actually teach this stuff. It's not just about throwing stress at people. There's a method, right?
Absolutely. There's a sophisticated pedagogy underpinning the entire program. It boils down to a core cycle: repetition plus stress plus reflection.
Break that down for us.
Okay, first, repetition. They drill fundamental skills in a safe, controlled environment until the muscle memory is deeply ingrained, until it's automatic, reflexive.
Then add stress.
Then they systematically layer on stressors: physical fatigue, sleep deprivation, comms loss, information overload, simulated casualties, time pressure. This forces the candidate to perform that ingrained skill under increasingly difficult, chaotic conditions.
And the crucial part, reflection.
Yes. After the high-stress evolution, whether it succeeded or failed, comes the immediate, candid, accountability-driven AAR, the after-action review. This is where the real learning happens.
AARs are pretty standard in the military, though. What makes the ODST approach different?
It's the immediacy, the brutal honesty, and the lack of hierarchy during the critique phase. Everyone involved, from the newest candidate to the senior cadre, speaks openly about what went right, what went wrong, and why. Failures aren't punished arbitrarily. They're dissected as valuable data points.
A failure is information.
Exactly. Information used to identify precise weaknesses, maybe in communication protocols, tactical decision-making, even individual weapon handling under pressure. And then, critically, those lessons are immediately looped back into corrective training. They attack the failure modes proactively.
And there's a constant tightrope walk between making it realistic and making it, well, reckless.
A very fine line. The manual emphasizes realism versus recklessness. They need authentic stress, authentic danger to build reliable combat reflexes. So scenarios use live fire elements, simulated explosions with controlled blast effects for demolitions training, but safety protocols are paramount.
So controlled risk exposure.
Precisely. Safety is rigorously managed, but not to the point where it sanitizes the experience too much. Candidates must feel the pressure, the disorientation, the fear to properly inoculate themselves against it. It's necessary risk.
Okay, managing the training risk is one thing. But what about managing the candidates themselves? 12 months of this. The cumulative physical toll must be enormous. How do they stop people from just breaking down physiologically?
That's where modern measurement and biometrics become absolutely essential. It's not just about PT scores anymore.
What are they tracking?
They use wearable telemetry systems pretty extensively, tracking heart rate variability, respiration, sleep patterns, even movement intensity and impact loads. Medical officers aren't just treating injuries, they're actively monitoring the cumulative physical load on each candidate.
Looking for what?
Signs of overtraining syndrome. They track immunological markers in blood work, looking for chronic inflammation. They monitor bone density and joint health proactively. The goal is to identify candidates approaching physiological breakdown before a catastrophic injury occurs. They manage the human body almost like a high-performance engine, tweaking the load to maximize output without causing burnout or permanent damage.
Fascinating. Let's talk about the culture this intense process creates. We keep coming back to that central tension.
Yeah.
The teamwork imperative versus the solo safety valve. How does the training culture instill both?
Teamwork is hammered in as the absolute bedrock. The ODST identity is a team identity, first and foremost. Training is designed to embed automatic coordination so deeply it becomes subconscious.
Like how?
Through endless drills focusing on synchronized movement, immediate reaction to teammate cues, verbal and nonverbal, standardized callouts, overlapping fields of fire, shared situational awareness. They operate almost as a single organism. If one trooper moves, the others instinctively know why and how to support or follow. It's about predictive trust.
But then, the solo imperative, the need to function alone. How is that integrated without undermining the team focus?
It's presented as the ultimate contingency plan, the safety valve for mission success when the team structure inevitably breaks down, whether through casualties or circumstance. Every single candidate is rigorously drilled and evaluated on their ability to immediately take over, adapt, and pursue mission objectives alone if necessary.
So solo tasks aren't just tacked on, they're a core requirement.
A core qualification. It's not an afterthought. They have to prove they can operate effectively with zero backup. This is tested directly in Phase V, obviously, but also through scenarios embedded in other phases, like tasking a single operator with placing a critical demolition charge under pressure or navigating solo back to an extraction point after being separated. They must be prepared to be the last one standing and still get the job done.
With this level of constant stress, physical and mental, the support systems must be incredibly robust. How do they manage the inevitable trauma and injuries?
They have to be. Continuous medical oversight is key. They pay extremely close attention to compound injuries, fatigue-related issues, and especially the lingering vestibular effects from repeated drops. And there's a very strict concussion protocol.
How does that work?
Any event that might have caused a concussion, a hard landing, a close blast, a significant blow to the head triggers an immediate evaluation. This often includes mandatory neurological checks, possibly imaging, and a compulsory rest and observation period until the candidate is definitively cleared by medical staff. Brain health is treated as a critical asset, just like physical strength.
And the mental health side? Is it stigmatized or integrated?
Fully integrated. It's not treated as an optional add-on or something sought only after a breakdown. Mental health support is proactive and mandatory.
How so?
Regular counseling sessions and resilience-building workshops are embedded throughout the entire 12-month program. They have formalized debriefing protocols after particularly high-stress training events, often involving mental health professionals or liaisons. The approach includes continuous low-level screening for early markers of PTSD or severe stress reactions.
So they try to catch problems early.
And provide rapid access to therapy or intervention if those markers appear. The philosophy seems to be about inoculating against severe mental health issues through structured training, open discussion, and immediate accessible support, rather than waiting for a crisis.
Finally, there's the ethical dimension. They're forging weapons, but presumably ethical weapons.
That's a crucial component. Ethical training isn't just a single lecture, it's woven into the fabric of the program. Mandatory instruction covers the law of armed conflict, rules for handling detainees or non-combatants, and the importance of intelligence handling protocols.
And tested, practically.
Yes, reinforced constantly through those decision-forcing scenarios we discussed, especially in Phase V. Candidates are deliberately put in situations where they must make difficult ethical choices under extreme pressure. Demonstrating sound judgment and adherence to lawful ethical conduct, even when it makes the mission harder, is graded just as seriously as marksmanship or tactical skill. They need warriors who can be trusted to wield immense power responsibly.
So, stepping back and looking at the whole picture, this multi-layered screening, the absolute crucible of selection week, and then this incredibly demanding 12-month forge covering everything from G-force tolerance to solo survival and ethical judgment. What kind of soldier, what kind of person ultimately emerges from this pipeline?
What you get is a warrior capable of seamless, integrated operation within a highly lethal team, while simultaneously possessing the skills, the mindset, and the sheer will to execute the mission completely autonomously if necessary.
It strips away dependencies.
Systematically. Dependency on direct orders, on reliable supply lines, on backup always being there. It replaces that with ingrained decision reflexes, instantaneous, disciplined reactions optimized for survival, adaptation, and relentless focus on the objective. The ODST graduate is forged to function, to succeed, precisely when all the normal support structures have failed.
So success isn't just mission complete. It's about enduring, adapting, and continuing the fight when everything has gone catastrophically wrong around them.
And that brings us right back to that final doctrine. that core ethos stated in the manual. We do not teach men how to die. We teach men how to keep living when everything else has failed.
Wow.
It's a philosophy built entirely on resilience, on endurance, and on ensuring operational continuity against literally impossible odds.
And that powerful idea, resilience in the face of total failure, leads us perfectly into our final thought for you, our listener, to mull over. We've spent this deep dive unpacking the intense selection, the brutal 12 months of training, the skills they build. But the program explicitly states its goal is to create leaders. Leaders capable of taking full mission responsibility when command is gone, when the structure collapses. So the question for you to consider is this: how does any institution, military or otherwise, truly measure and train for that kind of leadership that emerges and functions effectively, ethically, and decisively, specifically in the face of absolute catastrophic failure?
What does it really take to prepare someone for the worst imaginable day? Something to think about. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.